Welcome to a special Grave Geeks. We have a special guest coming tonight to talk about a new podcast, and she's part of the grave cleaning community, so I'm super excited.
Hi.
Hello. He's got people.
Up with the quickness.
Yes. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. Oh my gosh, that looks weird.
Whoa.
Hi, Mac.
Boom, 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 boom.
Hello. What the
Oh,
heck?
everybody just joined so fast that my screen glitched out.
Yeah, mine too.
It's fresh as a baby's bottom over there, Mac.
Goodness.
Well, there's a lip.
Hi,
Man, we need to get-
Mac.
Hi.
Hi, darling.
Hey, oh my goodness. I did a lot.
Hello.
Welcome to the craziness that is Grave Geeks.
I love it. Thank you, guys.
I actually got the background going too. I was all excited. I'm like, maybe if I do it first, then it'll stay.
I had to
All right.
clean my guest room so that the background was not a total nightmare. I guess I'll say.
So I don't see your
I'm on my
co-host
break.
in the background yet.
No, he'll show up.
Okay.
He will show up. I will force him to.
He will show up.
God damn it, Michael Bergen. No, I'll send him.
So I will leave a box open. So
how
I'm
are you all doing?
excited.
Nice and
I
warm
didn't mean
out.
to do that, by the way.
You're fine, Guru. Going nuts because we can't go outside. It like hurt to breathe this morning.
Oh my god, I know. No, I know. It's like people are like, "Oh, when are you going to start cleaning? Can you do some more cleaning?" I'm like, "No, because it has to get 40 degrees, which is not close."
We were 46 today, and I was so tempted, but work, responsibilities.
Jobs, thing.
Oh, nice. It worked. I was all concerned.
Did. Hello, Michael Bergen.
Michael Bergen, welcome to Grave Geeks.
Hello. Just working on getting my camera set up as a TikTok newbie. I'm here courtesy of Manic Pixie Mom.
Of course. So glad you could join us.
Thank you.
It's a learning curve, and then they change it, and then it's another learning curve, and then they change it again.
And then they ban it, and then it comes back.
Hey, Al.
Yes.
Guru just sent me a message. She said if you need to kick somebody off, go ahead and kick her off.
Okay.
She didn't mean to accept the invite. It was on accident.
I don't. Oh, I didn't know you invited me. I thought I hit it by accident.
Yeah, I invited.
Okay, sorry. I didn't want to hog any spaces, so
No.
just
Yeah,
don't
I know.
mind
Feel
me.
free to kick me off too.
We're getting to the point where it's awesome, and it's a little frustrating too because there's so many of us that there's only 9 boxes. So we try and rotate people. I can't drop down because I'm the host, but everybody's so like I'll literally like last week I was like, hey, some other people did their homework, they want to come off, and like 5 people just went I'm like, no, one at a time.
Should those of us that are in here introduce ourselves to them and how we got started kind of thing like we do sometimes?
I'll go first. We'll just go across. I know that, because Caitlin knows me, but for the rest of the people, so I got started by watching some of her videos. I did genealogy for years since I was a little kid, and going crazy during COVID trying to find something to do that wouldn't get me sick. So what better place than a cemetery that they're already dead? They're great. So I started doing that, and the community's been so great. She's been so great in helping, learn, and then meeting everybody and having people join in by watching other people's videos. This community is one of the best communities I have ever had the privilege and honor to be with. So, be your turn.
My name is B, and I've been doing genealogy for like 20-ish years, and I've been restoring and cleaning stones since 2018-19. when we were looking for my other half's grandfather, and at that time, I went to Jonathan's thing, and I learned how to do some stuff. So, yeah, that's pretty much me.
He likes
And then-
plants too. He's a plant
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
And he found me by
My husband.
Oh
is
yeah, and I
that.
found
Plant daddy.
her by actually watching a video that she was cleaning of one of my relatives, which was really, really cool.
Oh, how cool! That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Amanda.
Amanda.
Oh God, my turn.
The picture queen. The picture queen. It is your turn, my dear.
Well, my name is Amanda, and I got into cemetery photography after my father's passing in 2023, and it just kind of blossomed into doing headstone cleaning with my local cemetery. And Allie and Manny Pixie Mom are the two first people I started following doing that. And it just blossomed into grave geeks. I'm thankful for this whole group of people.
Allie's cooler than me, so I'm glad.
Okay. Mac.
Mr. Mac.
Hi, Manic Pixie Mom. It was so great to see you and talk to you. I got on here about a year and a half ago. I was already doing fixing up abandoned cemeteries and cleaning them out when I came onto TikTok. And forgive me, but I cannot remember who it was. The first cemetery and headstone cleaner I saw, whether it was you, Allie, or Manic Pixie Mom, or Alicia. I do not remember who it was, but I followed you all three in quick order. I was like, yup, follow. And I was amazed that there was this whole big thing. Like there was so many people out there that were interested, and I was so grateful at the time, because I was crying about my hometown cemetery being in such disrepair. So I met these folks, and we're all here, and I love it.
Cool.
Here we are.
So thank you for all your videos, and thank you for following me back, which you haven't.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you compliment, I'm just going to keep doing this. Like,
Are you an introvert at heart?
yes, I consider myself an ambivert, where like I like the social interaction, and then but then there is a hard line where I hate it, and I have to leave. And
I'm done.
My husband knows that. He's like, he sees it in my eyes, and he's like, okay, now we're done.
When you start fading away from the crowd, and
Yep.
I
Just
get
start
you.
distancing.
And you sit with Minion under a tree. I realize it's 8 o'clock yet, so that's why we're safe.
I know we've met before, but Tasha, I was not on TikTok until that one told me I had to. I actually started doing this in 2018. My mom's dad had passed away. We had always been into genealogy, but not like as hard as we are about it now. We found quite a few pretty intriguing records that he had, and it got us back into it again. So we started finding the burial places and realized quickly how bad some of these cemeteries were. And my mom and I kind of started it like as a thing for us to just do to get away from living people. My son, who's now almost 10, had been doing it with us too.
Yep.
And then randomly met Miss Allison, who was wild enough to come help us in a cemetery in the middle of nowhere, because we only live like 20 minutes away from each other. And then it's just been history since that.
She still liked me after I was crazy enough, like, let's grab some ratchet straps and pull up this stone. It's fine. It's just a culvert. It's fine.
No, honestly, I love it.
Eating
Every
up-
time I see Allison, I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you in a year or two. And then like, there you are. We're best friends now.
No, I loved that. Like, her and I we randomly met that day, and we've been inseparable ever since. But that's me.
Megan.
My name's
You
Megan.
can do it.
I am out of Southwest Michigan. I started cleaning, it's been a little over a year and a half now. I didn't start posting on TikTok till probably, I believe, June of last year. And Allie was very, very kind to quickly welcome me into the Grave Geeks community and kind of brought me out of my shell. I am a social anxiety introvert, and the fact that my camera is on right now and talking to everybody is a big accomplishment for me. The first
Girl,
couple of weeks, she's like, "Come on in," and I'm like, "No, I'm okay. I'll just wait. I'll just hang
I
out in the
work
comments."
remotely. I've worked remotely like since long before COVID, and I never put my camera on Zoom meetings unless forced to. Ever.
I
This is quite
understand.
nice, but ever. So I'm with you.
And I got started like most everybody else with genealogy. And my mother actually sent me one of your videos to start with. And she was like, "You would do awesome at this, Meg. I think this would be something you would," because it's something I do by myself. I get to be out in nature, and it's blossomed from one kind of family-ish cemetery. It turns out I'm just related to everybody in that cemetery by marriage or blood, um, to 9 now. So it's
Wow.
become, it started out as something I enjoyed doing into now an obsession to where I'm watching the temperature during the winter months because I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait.
Oh my god.
Meanwhile, it's
However,
-10 outside.
Yeah, I don't
it
even.
was negative 25 last week, and then it was 46 today. I didn't wear my coat all day today. I was like, it is the most beautiful day out.
Isn't it so funny when you live in a cold place how like when it in January it hits like 43, you're like bikini weather, and then
Heat
August
wave.
and it's 60, you're like, what is this?
I
This
know.
garbage.
Perspective. I'm glad for that cold snap because now I am totally appreciative of those 30s and those 40s. I'm like, yes, we have warmth of
Send
some
it this
type.
way.
Yes.
Send it this way,
Yes.
please.
I think rain's coming your way.
Rain and snow. Yeah, more
And then
of
it's supposed to
that.
get cold. We have a backyard ice rink. So my husband actually like cheers for the cold because when it's really cold, then the ice rink does really well.
Mm,
So it's a lot of conflicting things.
yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for joining tonight. We're all kind of fangirling out. So thank you so much for the follow. I was in Omaha and it was 3 in the morning when I noticed it. To say the least, I acted a fool in an Omaha hotel parking lot.
You know,
I may or may not have been excited. I made a fool of myself at work when Allie followed me. My coworker was like, "I don't know what that means, but congratulations."
I think I acted a fool in Omaha. Needs to be like a shirt.
I did. I acted a straight up
Cheryl.
fool in Omaha,
Cheryl.
but
Where's Cheryl?
thank you, Cheryl. I'll take a size small. So that's me. I'm Megan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Megan. Thank you.
And what about you, Caitlin?
Me. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for inviting me. I play with my hair when I'm nervous. Okay. I had short hair for so long, so now I get to play with it. You all know my name is Caitlin. I live in Vermont. I started, like all of you, I think I've said this in a video before. I have a theory that in every generation, there's like somebody that's like the genealogy person, and everyone knows who that is. Like, I know that's going to be my son, even though he's 6. My grandfather was that person, and he was sharing stuff with me when I was really young. I'm really sad now that he died when I was in my early 20s, and so now I'm like, I wish I could go back and be like, oh my God, there's so many questions I have. But I'm that person in my family, and I always have been. And I grew up, born and raised in New England. And I am from a town of, I think, 120 people on a busy day. And I think we have like 4 or 5 cemeteries. So, we were visiting them. That's just what you did. And some experiences with death when I was young, which kind of like led to some like weird stuff that was like, hey, graves and cemeteries and dead people and whatever. We don't, it's not therapy. We will push that aside. When I met my husband and I have been together since high school. And there was one night we spent 5 hours at night tracing our various lineages. And then I was like, okay, this is who I need to be with forever. And we ended up where we're now in Vermont. After I had my kids, I started going into cemeteries when they were in daycare, and did Find a Grave, did the volunteering, all that kind of thing. I took a picture for a woman in Iowa, and she asked if I would clean a grave, and I did. And that was in 2020, when nothing of note happened in the world. So I did it. I cleaned those, and then I was like, all right. And it was the next year that I kind of was like, hey, I'd seen Alicia mostly on TikTok, and I was like, hey, I remember, I'm old now, and I remember that when the older people got on Facebook, and I was like, I don't want to go onto TikTok, I don't want to be that guy. And then my sister-in-law was like, no, we'll carve out a little millennial spot. It's okay. So I started sharing in 2021, and then now we're here. And Allison has told me about this group before, and I've wanted to join. I have a Russian class that's usually at this time, but this time I was like, forget the Russian class. And I am really excited to finally get to chat with you guys. And, I invited my podcast co-host, Michael Bergen, for our new podcast. He's here as well. And that was a lot of talking, so I'm sorry. I live in Vermont. I've got 6 ducks. I have an axolotl, a cat, and a dog. And 2 kids.
I love it.
She fits
And 2
in.
kids.
She fits in
And 2 kids.
amazing.
I like
The
that.
ducks came before the kids.
2 kids at the end. The 6 ducks, the axolotl, the cat, the dog are all before that. But
It's fair.
Guru, do you want to go?
Sure.
Okay, if you don't.
I'm Carissa. I'm Carissa. Everyone just calls me Guru. I started with genealogy a long time ago, but as far as the stone cleaning, I just picked that up last year. And then a few months ago in September, one of my friends was like, I see these people that do what you do on TikTok, and you should get on TikTok. And I'd never really messed with TikTok before that. And then I started finding all of these people, and I didn't really start making friends per se until I think it was We Salute You's live. And he was like, who's Graveyard Guru? She keeps sleeping on our lives. And so he invited me up, kind of put me on the spot. Thank you. No, really, thank you. Because I never would have talked to you guys if he hadn't done that. So, and now they're all my friends. But I live in Indiana, and I don't really know what else to say other than that.
did you say Louisiana?
Oh, Indiana.
Indiana. Oh, okay. I was going to say Louisiana. Grave cleaning there must be interesting.
And I'm from New York. I'm right next to you.
Okay. Where in New York are you from?
Southern Tier, near Binghamton.
Oh, okay.
I'm also in Michigan, in the middle of
Where in the hand? Oh, okay. I went to college
I'm
in
down
Wisconsin.
here.
I'm right here.
I went to college in Wisconsin, so I'm familiar with this geography.
Yeah, and Megan's down here somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I'm by Kalamazoo.
Oh, not a Uber.
Nope. Nope,
It's
I'm a
funny,
Southwest Michigan girl.
For me, who doesn't like a whole lot of people, I seem to have collected a few.
I love it. I love it so much. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I would love to introduce Michael Bergen. I don't think he can show his face because of the law. No, because of I think he doesn't have a phone. But
Because of my horrible disfigurement. I'm like the Phantom of the Opera.
You have to wait until our launch date for our podcast to see what exactly it is. But Michael is my friend and my co-host on my new podcast, and I really wanted to bring him in on this because while he does not clean graves, he is probably the biggest history nerd I've ever met in my entire life. And we were talking today, and I was saying he's my emotional support historian. So if you have anything you want to know about anything, especially about ancient Roman history, Michael will be able to tell you. And he's got a lot of writing credits. He's written for some really big deal YouTube things like Film Theory, Game Theory. He's absolutely amazing, and I love him. And he and my son are birthday twins, and all sorts of things. So, Michael, go.
I'm glad that my camera is off for the moment because I'm a little verklempt after that introduction. No, Caitlin and I got introduced by a mutual acquaintance of ours. So the creator of our new podcast, which is called Mortal Mysteries: Crime Throughout Time, I've worked with for many, many years. And before this show even existed, she was telling me, hey, I've found this lady on TikTok. She's super interesting and super dynamic. I think that there's something there. Like, I want to make a show for her. And I was like, oh yeah, she's. I watched her stuff. I think you're the first person I ever saw on TikTok, Caitlin. And so just got acquainted with you. And then, long story short, we decided to make a show, and we're super excited for it to come out. But yeah, I'm more the history nerd side of things, and just love all things weird and spooky and researchy and nerdy. So Caitlin and I make a pretty good team, I would say, in terms of just our mutual interest in the macabre and trying to explain away the mysteries of life and death.
Yep. And Michael was on Jeopardy as a child.
No, we don't need to talk about that, Caitlin.
I'm going to look that one up.
Yeah.
Bergen. Okay.
I wasn't aware I was in the presence of a Jeopardy contestant.
And
that is like a life goal of mine, is to be on Jeopardy.
It's a lot of fun. I'm so old that I did it when Alex Trebek was on it, but I was 12 when this happened. So it's a bit of a story. I'll spare you the grisly details, but it's something that has definitely been a topic of conversation for me for the past 25 years that I've gotten a lot of mileage out of.
It's his one fun fact when he's in a corporate boardroom.
We are all inclusive. So we have our oldest member who doesn't come live, but is supportive of all of us, who's my father, who is turning 75 this year, all the way down to little minions. I call them minions because you can't get in trouble for any terms, which Caitlin's met my minion several times. But we have the youngest minion, I think, is Krista's, and she's 3. So
it was funny when we were at the Dorset workshop last year. That was the first time Jasper didn't go to the other one. So in Dorset was the first time he had seen you. And he goes, Mom, isn't that the girl on TikTok? No. It's like, yes. He's like, because he calls you the one that he likes the voice of.
Oh my God, I'm gonna fall. You
have a soothing voice.
So Parker, Gone Graving in the comments, he cannot come up. He is not of age to be live and has been banned from TikTok until 2029 on going live.
What?
But
he's a couple months younger than Minion.
Yeah. But I asked him if he wanted me to do his introduction. So he is also from New York. He's from we'll say Rochester area.
Okay.
He is a sophomore in high school, and this kid is doing phenomenal things. Like, he's been recognized by New York State already, and he's running his own workshops. I don't really know a lot about how he got started, but he's doing great things.
And tell me what's his name?
Gone Graving. So he just commented on
that. Oh, yes, good job. That's amazing. I love that so much. And when I started doing it, and I thought, it's going to stick mostly with people my age. Like, I thought, I'm not whatever. So it's really cool to see younger people get into this, because I assume most of you have seen this, because I know all of you have probably worked with the cemeteries and worked with the historical societies, and you see that when you are the youngest person, when I'm almost 40 and I'm the youngest person by 30 years, where you're it's so cool to see people get involved in it and see people get engaged in it, because that's the future of all of this and maintaining this. So I think that's really great, Gone Graving. You did a good job. Good job, because when I was a sophomore in high school, I don't even know what I was into. Some terrible boy band, I'm sure. So.
I'm going to jump down and let Jay up.
Okay.
Okay, or Cheryl or whoever else is in here.
And then I do have questions about the podcast too.
Sure. Yep.
Is there anybody else that wants to come up here? Like, I can drop down if there is somebody that wants to take the box.
Yeah, I can too.
Jay says he's good.
Okay.
Obviously,
WV
I
should come
can
up.
too.
He's
Yep.
like,
I know Krista was saying something about me doing her introduction, but if she wants to come up here, she can come up.
Chaos is in here too.
I don't want to just like drop myself down until I know somebody's gonna take
Yes,
the
one at
box.
a time. So
Yeah.
while that's happening, I'm gonna go get Minion real quick so that she can come say hi, so that we can get that out of the way.
Hold on. Should we prepare headphones?
she's probably gonna
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Good call.
Turn volume down.
Minion, our
got
IT, our IT person.
My children are
Did you want to come say hi?
Yes, we do.
I have a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old. Kids tell the 10-year-old like, "Hey, I've seen your mom." So
Her teachers follow me.
yeah, I get that too. Yeah, I saw one that was like a kid that said, "Hey, you're William's mom." That's my son, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes, hello, Liam. How are you?"
After letting everybody in my class know what I was doing my thesis project on, I have gained my professor as a follower.
Oh wow,
I'm like,
there was a funny thing where I had somebody write to me and they were like, "Hey, I am in so and so's class at City University of New York, and he says he knows you." And I was like, "Yes, that is my friend Chris. We grew up together. I met my husband through him." And she was like, "That's what he said in class." And I texted him and I was like, "You can use me for cachet. I was not cool amongst the youths when I was a youth, but if you can use it, do it."
right.
Go ahead, say hi.
Hi, Aurora,
Okay,
how are
Minion.
you? It's nice to see you.
Yeah, it's just really long now.
Could you hear?
No, I didn't. What'd you say?
She said, you can't, is it not in your ear, right?
You got to turn it on.
Hang on. Hang on.
The IT girls having IT issues?
Right.
Okay, so yours is really long now.
Oh yeah. No, I know, it's crazy. Now I've seen you. I saw you. What was it? This year, and I saw you. It was 2 years ago, I think, in Salem. And so you look so tall, and oh my goodness.
He's so
grown up.
big. He's so big. Big Minion.
You're so big. Oh my goodness, you're so big. I want to pinch your cheeks.
I'm 5'1".
I'm 5'3", so that's tall. You know.
So
I don't
didn't
think
realize
I've ever
Krista.
heard her ross of words.
I know. Usually she's
I know,
like,
that's very rare.
So I didn't realize in the comments Krista had said she wasn't coming up because she's sick.
oh,
So
There's so many people
Krista,
going around right now.
yeah, Krista, she goes by the name with Grave Care on here.
Okay.
She's also from New York, but from more like the capital region.
Okay,
She
that's
is the one that she has the youngest minion on the team.
I love it. Get all these little gravelings into it.
I
Gravelings.
like that,
That's
Gravelings.
better.
I like that. I love
I like that.
Gravelings.
Mine's 16 and very uninterested.
There's so many more in here that don't want to come up. WV, we salute you. Chris D, Cheryl.
Yeah, Chris, do you want to come up?
It's a little intimidating.
Yeah, I kind of dropped down so that somebody could come up, but nobody took it.
I promise you that I'm only looking at my own face and like, oh, my own hair. So
Yeah.
We're all self-conscious at the end of the day, remember? As much as you're afraid of your own appearance, others are of their own. They're not paying attention to you, they're paying attention to you.
yeah, we all know. I look. I'm like, man, my forehead's big. No, okay.
I washed my hair for this today.
I makeup.
I put on makeup for this.
Me
So
too.
usually
I
I'm
do
a
that.
goblin person. So
Me too.
I roll out of bed.
Michael put on makeup
Max,
as well.
Max shaved for this.
I
Yes, he
shaved
did.
for you.
I'm actually wearing a nice shirt too, as well.
I know we're all like we're trying to be our most presentable we can
I
possibly
am.
be.
I
I
put my
am
best
behaving
purple
myself.
hoodie.
I have this. I was like, can I wear this shirt? This is like appropriate, right? Like
That's
this is
awesome.
Yes,
And
that's
Caitlin, you
amazing.
don't know how hard it is for Tasha to be on her best behavior.
We are doing so
I'm
good, Tosh.
normally
We have
I'm
a
normally
timer.
the one. Yeah. So on our on the webpage, we have where we've been putting like our Grave Geeks lives up there, and we have a disclaimer on it that there is some adult language that is used, and I had to put that disclaimer on there. And Allie's like, yeah, it's because of you that we need that disclaimer on there.
Speaking of Tasha, she scared the crap out of me the other day. Just randomly, I'm playing the game. I don't know if this was yesterday or the day before that. I'm playing
It
the
was
game.
yesterday.
I'm playing like an FPS first person shooter. I look over at my phone on its little magnetic stand, and all of a sudden I just see on Messenger, "Love you." Okay, love you too? Question mark.
love that.
Is this like
Simple
a private
Living?
message?
Simple Living, do
saw
you
her.
want to come up? She has she does a lot of social media stuff, and
I promise I
if
won't
she
cry
wants to
this week.
come up.
You yell at me to leave.
I cry all the time.
Here. Okay, I'm gonna drop down so she can come up.
Okay.
If I can figure out how to do this. 1 second.
You can do it.
Tap on your screen. Oh,
Oh.
no talk. We are without
Moving
talk.
further and further up on the grid.
Yeah. Well, we started that website because of the whole we wanted to put something together so that this way people that want to join, want to do things, want information, want to start doing this had a consolidated, there's no gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't tell you what I do because I don't want you to overtake me. No, I want people to do this the right way. And then with the whole band and everybody was freaking out. I'm like, we need to get this done so that we all can still talk.
Yeah,
So-
for sure.
Sorry, go ahead. Simple Living Genealogy.
Hey everyone, so I'm Joan Marie, whatever people want to call me. I found this group because I'm on social media all the time. I handle a lot of social media for historical genealogical societies, trying to get them to be on social media and realize this is a valuable tool and they need to do it. And so I'm on TikTok a lot. And I've come across, Allie was the first person I found. And then she introduced me to this whole community, and B is on every Wednesday night with me because I do a genealogy talk. But so I don't really clean the headstones. I've done a couple of my own ancestors, but I've learned such valuable, how to clean, how to preserve. And so this is why this group is so important. Because I'm all about preserving family history, and this is a valuable part of it. So, but this group has been amazing.
I love that, Joan. Thank you. Where are you based? Tell me in.
Well, I was everywhere. Currently, I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina last year because I want to research my family history.
Cool.
So I've never lived in a place very long. I'm kind of a gypsy
Wanderer.
soul, I guess you could say. My parents made me that way, but so yeah, I'm down in Charlotte for right now.
Oh, cool.
There's a place for everybody in this group because it's not just cleaning headstones. It's not. There's pictures. Amanda. So we just started a picture contest for seasons. So everybody can send in their like we did the winter. So everybody submitted it, and it was just no names, just where it was. And then everybody got to vote, and whoever won, that's the featured one for the season. But we had to make a rule that you could only win for one season a year. Otherwise, Amanda would probably clean up for the year.
She'd sweep the field every time. She takes some truly amazing pictures.
So cool.
She don't like the spotlight.
We know, Amanda,
You had
but
to
you
know
do.
this was coming.
I do have some questions about the podcast, which is like one of the reasons we came too. So, what made you guys think, or what inspired you to shift into working with them about doing the true crime story mysteries? I know you did a couple posts, but how did you get there?
Sure. So that's a great question. I'm going to do the whatever celebrity press junket. So you know, I assume this is probably true of a lot of you too, that when you're into the kind of things we're into, you're also into, like, you know, true crime or just interesting stories from the past, right? So I got connected, kind of like how Michael was saying, we got connected with a mutual friend, I'm going to say, is the term. And basically it was like, hey, how can we, like, what kind of stuff do you want to talk about? What kind of stuff do you want to, you know, kind of delve more into? And it was funny because we kind of started that conversation. Michael got brought in as like, hey, you know, Michael's a writer by trade, really. But then Michael and I started dominating the phone calls where we would start talking about this.
I almost felt like they were getting annoyed with us at a certain point as we were talking about, like, what's a really good show that would showcase everything that Caitlin does in terms of her, you know, obviously grave cleaning skills, but like respect for the past and interest in human stories and things like that. And one of the things that we were talking about is we love true crime, but feel like there may be some underserved stories from farther in the past that we can look at, as far as, you know, what was the world like in that era, what was life like for people, and just exploring it with level heads, what might be the explanations to some of these enduring mysteries, some of which are going to be really famous cases that people have heard about, and some of which are deeper cuts that we hope people are hearing about for the first time.
Yeah, and I think we also shared a thing with, you know, I think there is kind of an element, sort of an underlying thing in true crime now of not wanting to be exploitative of victims and of,
for sure.
You know, and really it's hard to do that with like a current story, right? Where there are people that are actively impacted every time a podcast is released. Somebody's impacted by that and they're hearing about it and that kind of thing. So we liked the idea of, well, let's look in the past, because there's, you know, some of you who might have seen my old time true crime videos, there's like these stories that are just completely unheard of, or, you know, that were a huge deal in their time and then just got sort of lost, and maybe even sort of were affected by the context of their time, in terms of, you know, this person was accused of it because they were a person of color, or because, you know, they're someone who was murdered or kidnapped that was of a marginalized group, it wasn't paid attention to, or something like that. So we really were both, we shared like an interest in delving into that, and not even just that, but making sure we got the truth of it. Because another thing that we bonded over and we ranted over is like when you're listening to a podcast and they say something and you're like, I know that's not right. Like you can literally Google that right now and it's not right what you're saying. And Michael and I are that.
Which is easy for us to say. I'm sure that this is karmic retribution as soon as we've said something that off the cuff.
We will fact check you now. No,
but yeah, I mean, we definitely.
I want to be fact checked.
We care about the record. We care about, you know, talking about certainty and uncertainty as well, right? The idea that the truth, especially as you go farther in the past, is not necessarily something as written in stone as it is something to be interpreted through those primary sources, which have their own biases, right? Caitlin and I spent so much time pouring through old newspapers and things and going like, well, here's what it says, but then also there are these other factors that might contribute to why the newspaper is saying what it's saying, or what it might be euphemistically saying, or they were just trying to sell some papers and had very, very little ethics. So who knows what to trust here? And embracing, you know, the ability to scratch the itch that I think a lot of us have about exploring mysteries of the past, while still recognizing that we want to weigh what the possible explanations are, and recognize our own limitations in being not necessarily able to come up with certainty, but still examine them with modern tools and see what we think is reasonable and what theories out there that we think may have proliferated but not be as reliable.
It's funny too. So even before I knew that you guys were going to come in, so we've been trying to fill the void of us not being able to go to the cemetery for the most part, with these homeworks that we've been doing. And this week's homework came to us at the end of last week, and it's find a something that happened in history that is very underreported or people don't really know about. So that was the homework for everybody. I was like, "Oh, you're a historian. You would get a kick out of the homework that we were going to do."
Well,
And I did.
so it's funny because you sent that to me, Allie, and I sent it to Michael, and Michael sent me several stories. He was like, "We could talk about this, because we, like again, I think that one thing that Michael and I feel like we really like jibed over is this, like, I want to dig into these things that, aren't the big necessarily stories. We like those too, but like also these weird little things that can be jumping off points for talking about all this other crazy thing that like people don't necessarily hear about every day. So I love this. It's got all this is like, it's synchronicity, it's kismet, all of it. I love it.
Yes. Have you found one, like, so from you cleaning and then like, oh, I cleaned this and then like I found Black Bart's family by cleaning his uncle and cousins? I was like, oh crap.
No, that's
or the like crazy things that I've found just in doing DAR applications, like the one I sent you a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, what the frig?
I just want to point out.
Justin, by the way, Justin messaged in the Discord. He is back in service now, so I told him to get in here.
Yay. Oh, I have to do workarounds and re-download TikTok. Oh, good luck with that, guys.
I gave him instructions, so.
Okay. We need to have a GoFundMe so that Justin can buy one of those $20,000 phones on eBay that have TikToks preloaded on them.
Jasper, I think the kid has had his headset on a little bit too long when it's like has a mark in his hair now.
His hair starts growing around it.
That happens to my son. He walks out and he has that little headphone thing.
There's some video I saw of a dad, like a new dad, who had the headphones and he put a diaper, like a clean diaper.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
For your topics for the True Crime podcast, are you going to focus mostly on the U.S. in true crime, or do you plan on going anywhere?
So that's a very good question. We are all over the place, both in place and in time. And we've tried not just to stick to only true crime, as in this person was murdered and it was a mystery. We also really are really interested in historical mysteries, even if it's not necessarily specific to crime. So the one that one that is close to my heart is we talk about Rasputin, because my degree is in Russian. I took Russian classes. I'm missing it right now. My Russian professor is very angry. But or Michael's area of expertise with like classical history, and we have some conversations about like the assassination of Julius Caesar, and
that's so cool.
All sorts of like things that maybe just aren't, maybe are understood or people think they understand them. We really want to like go in and pry it apart, because like I said, I studied Russian in college, so like, and Michael, God bless him, was very nice about me making him pronounce Russian names.
I did my best. I did my best.
And then he got me into like Roman history. He did it. I wasn't sure he could do it, but he did it. So that's something that's important to us too, is things, revisiting things that people I think are oh, this is what I know about this. And, everyone has their idea of it, and kind of prying that apart too. So to answer that question, that was a long, rambling answer. This is what I do. I ramble. That we are really not specific to the U.S. We're not specific to a certain time. Like, we've gone as far back as Julius Caesar, and we've gone throughout, leading up to into the 20th century. And I don't know, Michael, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, that's correct, right? Like, we're interested in where the winds of mystery take us. Europe, like, I know that they're on our list of like possible things to research. I know that we've got a couple stories from Australia that are interesting. We've done some European ones. We've done some and all throughout time and history and across the world. It's not that we're looking for specific places, but often what we try to find is what the common thread is across these time periods and across these geographical regions. That, what accounts for some of the elements of mystery might be very similar, whether we're talking about a disappearance from the 1950s or a historical legend from the 16th century. There's a lot of the same kinds of narratives and interest that unite those stories, and that's been interesting for us to see as well. That it's like, oh, we talked about this theme from something from 500 years ago, and it's coming up still from one of our more recent episodes that we were looking into from a couple decades ago. So that's been interesting too.
Yeah, for sure.
I know I'm going to catch heck by asking this, but did you address his missing member?
I can't remember. I know I did to Michael. I don't know if we said it in the podcast.
You'll have to tune in.
Tune in.
We'll see if it makes the final edit or the gag reel.
I will tell you, and this is a confession that you all need to hear, that when I studied abroad in Moscow in 2007, and I asked a Russian professor about that, a professor in Russia about it, and she was very confused. Everyone in the class was embarrassed for me, but I did, and I asked about it, because it was like number one. And I did not, because I was a classical, like I learned in college, I did not know how to ask. I did not know the word for it, but I did ask about it. So it was on my mind when we did the podcast, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, where is your podcast going to be? Somebody's asking down below. Is it on Spotify or TikTok or?
Yes, so our podcast is going to be exclusive to it's a new streaming platform called Fortify.space. And it's a really cool new platform that it's going to have a lot of different capabilities in it that kind of, I think, enhance sort of the engagement of all of it. There's going to be sort of a chat function to be able to engage on the actual platform itself. And there's a lot of control given to creators to create some really cool, like, storytelling and engaging content. So it is on its own streaming platform, both in audio and also in video. We actually filmed, like, on a soundstage, a really pretty scene. The set is absolutely gorgeous, and it's all like built, it's all real, it's all that. I think I'm really excited about the platform itself.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. And for anyone who's interested, first off, thank you. The best way to get there right now is to look up mortalmysteries.com because we're actually launching this platform. It's going to be live here in just a few days. But if you go to mortalmysteries.com, you see a little bit of a preview, and then you can get notifications for when everything's up and running, and you can get us there.
Yeah, and please.
Thank you.
Suggestion would be for you, Caitlin, is to do a story. I don't know if you've done stories on TikTok, but even just using an editor, and if you need help, I don't mind. I've learned how to do that because it's annoying. Just putting that URL out so that this way they know, and it pops. So it's like, even if people are your videos are getting buried or whatever, people aren't seeing it as much because the algorithm is really weird right now since the ban. You'll see it right at the top.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'll reach out to you, Allie, because that's helpful for sure. Because we want to get people to sign up for more information, all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate that, and thank you for letting us talk about it.
I have a question for you that's kind of off that topic, and it's kind of a running joke with Mr. Michigan up there.
Oh, geez, which one?
We have a lot of. He's related to everybody.
Both of you are.
And
Sorry.
I'm related to everybody in the Northeast. So I was going to ask about your lineage there in Vermont, whether you have any Sperry's or
He wants to
Benedict.
know if he's related to you.
Yeah, I want to know if I'm related to anybody in here.
So, it's funny because I grew up in rural Maine, as far east as you can go before you hit Canada. That I always call it the butt of Maine that sticks into Canada. And my dad was raised in New Jersey, and then his family moved back there. And I was always known as from away because I didn't have an accent. I don't have a Maine accent. But my family's been there since the 1600s on my dad's side. And the names there are Sullivan and Vos. And then from the other side, my mom's from California, and there's a bunch of other weird stuff. But bottom line, we're not from Vermont originally. Okay. We came to New England. We came back to New England to raise our family and all that, but didn't want to go back to Maine. But we are deep New Englanders, and I'm sure, honestly, if you've got any connections in New England, it's all just one big small town.
I've got connections across the United States, across the world, but we started right there in New Haven, Connecticut, and then just branched out everywhere. So
nice. It's crazy. I read the book. I don't know if you all read the book, The Indifferent Stars Above, about the Donner Party. Honestly, mind-blowing book. Check it out. I don't get paid by that guy. He's just great. He does. I would say he's got a similar vibe to all of us, where he's telling the story, but he's also talking about all the little extra things of what people would have had to bring on the trail, and things they would have had to worry about, and what a newly married couple would have been thinking, that kind of stuff. But
who was the author?
I think it's Daniel Brown. No.
Okay. I just wrote it down.
What was the name of the book?
The Indifferent Stars Above.
Okay.
I had to write that down.
Hey! William Briggs.
Your cousin!
Hello, William.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him out. This is the first time he said anything. Hello, William Briggs. I love you, cousin.
But in the book, he
really
focuses it on somebody in the party that wasn't. And again, this is what makes me think of what we all do. Is he focuses on someone that you don't know the name of until you start the book, and that person is tied to Vermont and was born not that far from here. So and went out, whatever, and was part of the Donner Party. So I love that stuff.
Cool. Do you have any Weskets
in my family
that you know of? Yeah.
No, not off the top of my head. I when I did my I did my ancestry, all that, and it was the same general as Irish Catholic names. My family was very boring. We're Irish Catholic. We're not deviating. Then when I did my 23andMe, I thought maybe I'll get something that's something interesting. Nope. Irish, English, Scottish. They all just stuck in the same group of people.
So we're probably related. Which would be hilarious because I have not found any connection to anybody in the Grave Geeks. These two, I'm not even joking, Mac and B are related. They are related to everybody.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Again, we are semi-related, Allie. We're just not directly related.
You're seventh cousin,
We're all
twice
related
removed,
in some way,
is married to my 28th cousin 15 times removed. That's not related.
No,
Allie, we'll look at it. We'll figure it out.
I do have one question before I forget. Would you guys be okay with us putting it up on our website to go check out your podcast?
Yeah. Right, Michael? That's fine. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. We're grateful for anybody getting the word out. Yeah. Right now, it's just we're working hard getting the platform, putting the finishing coat of paint on that. So the best way to do it is is the show title right now, mortalmysteries.com.
Okay.
Yep.
I looked at your website, by the way. That is really nice looking.
Yeah.
I subscribed to it already, too.
Oh,
Me too.
thank you. Thank you so much, honestly. Like, I love
We're
it.
excited to share it with people. It's been a long time coming, but we're really excited.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
best
just didn't
part about our
want to.
group.
I didn't want to put it on there before asking.
No, I
And
appreciate
I know
it.
it releases on the 2nd, so I'll throw something up there.
You know, yeah.
And that's the thing about our group is we are all about promoting everybody's endeavors, as long as they're legal and not,
Oh, come
The
on.
illegal stuff.
This
we
is
just
part
don't
of
do
the legal. Did we not
Part
say
of the
that? I
mob.
told you that, Allie. This podcast
we
is
support.
illegal.
We just don't.
We have a
We're
Discord
not
to talk
accomplices.
about the illegal stuff in.
Wink, wink, wink.
Yeah. Ask us
After
for the
dark.
link. Yeah.
Anybody else have questions? No. I figured.
I
I
do.
was like, okay, go ahead.
I do, but it's kind of more morbid. But what is one of your favorite cases that you found that you would like to share with one of us, or all of us, I should say?
Or are you talking about just in general?
For the podcast,
right?
yeah.
For the podcast?
For the podcast.
I think one of the ones that I had never really heard of until I started researching for it was the Texas servant girl annihilator. I don't know if anyone's heard of it.
That sounds interesting.
I've heard of it.
I would hope you did.
Michael, where'd you hear about it?
Mostly from you.
Mostly from me. And I won't, obviously give up
right,
whatever the sauce. But basically, it's a series of murders that took place in Austin, Texas, in it's the late 1800s, right, Michael? There's a lot of axe murders at that time.
Yeah, there, and this one had some interesting instruments with it as well. Servant Girl Annihilator, I want to say, so we're in Texas, I think it's the 1880s.
Yep.
1885, 1886.
Yeah, and that one, what's interesting about it is that there is a lot of brutality. So Skip Hollandsworth, if any of you like true crime, you might know Skip Hollandsworth. He actually wrote a whole book on it called The Midnight Assassin, and I read that in advance of our actually doing the podcast. And it was a really very brutal story. That the reason that it kind of got no one's really heard of it is because it was right before or right after Jack the Ripper. So there was a lot of similarities with it, but that one was for me was holy moly! Actually reading through it, good Lord. Michael, what is yours?
Yeah, I would struggle to pick one, right? I think that there are a lot of fun things that we're covering. I mean, fun is maybe not the perfect word to use, depending on what they are.
Hey, they were fun for the person doing it.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, it's hard for me to pick favorites. I'm so interested in just seeing how the mythos of these stories have evolved, what they were at the time and where they are now. So yeah, it's a little hard to pick. That's a good story that Caitlin just dropped there, because it is one that very, very few people have heard of. It's a little gruesome, but it's interesting to see how racial politics plays into that story. It's interesting to see how xenophobia plays into that story at various points in time. So all the vices that we might recognize in our current day have been around and recycled for centuries, and that's an interesting thing to see in these, is how contemporary a lot of these things feel, even if they're centuries old sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, what about now? Caitlin said that you came up with some homework topics. So what's your favorite obscure history that you could share for the homework?
Okay, so to be completely not morbid and brutal, so I'm going to give Michael credit for this one, but I'll kick it off, Michael. that we were looking into the Straw Hat Riots of 1922.
Has anybody heard of these? Because I think the story is really interesting.
Mac has. Okay, we got one.
We got one. So this happened in 1922, and essentially, you know, again, it's like I can't talk about it without laughing because it's like what? It's all about fashion, right? Obviously, and at the time in 1922, the straw hat, which we all have our straw hats, right? We all wear them. Was becoming like more popular. And this is in New York City, by the way. This is Brooklyn, New York. And at some point, there was a sort of unspoken rule that you could only wear your straw hat until September 15th.
It's actually a very spoken rule, right? It was in contemporary advertisements as well that like straw hat season was May 15th to September 15th.
Like so white.
Yeah, exactly. Like Labor Day, you can't wear white after Labor Day, which also is something from around that time. And straw hats, think of those like flat rimmed hats that you'd wear in a barbershop quartet. That sort of thing became extremely fashionable. They were actually first fashionable among women in the late 19th century, and then sort of post World War I era. Or around that time became part of men's fashion as we get into the roaring 20s, and New York is really a city on the up and up, and like anybody who's anybody in the upper crust is wearing those hats for boating. It's why they're called boaters a lot of the time in the summertime.
And I said it's because I read when I was reading about it, it said some people said September 15th, other people were like September 1st, but it was very much like there's this date. So in 1922, the date passes, and clearly roving gangs of preteens and teenagers were very upset that there were still people wearing these straw hats after that date. So, obviously. So, in what the newspapers called and they called it an orgy of, like, shenanigans, I guess. These roving gangs of young boys were harassing men who were still wearing their straw hats. So they had sticks that they had like nailed nails to that they would use to hook the hat off the guy. They would make some of them run through a gauntlet. They would some of them got wounded. There was some story of a guy who lost an eye, but I wasn't sure if that was like journalistic embellishment or not.
Yeah,
but,
hard one to confirm, that one.
Yes, but this lasted for 8 days, and at the end, a bunch of these kids got rounded up. And Matt and Michael, I want you to say the name of the judge that oversaw all this.
Well, he was the local magistrate who, storybook ending. His name is Hatting. Hatting, who's overseeing these cases, and it's several cases because I used to live in New York City for a long time, and the different reports, I assumed that this was just all like one group of kids in one neighborhood. It's not. Like they're talking about Upper East Side, so Lexington Avenue and 3rd Avenue around there. At one point, a newspaper reports that there were over 1,000 young people who made them up. That's on Amsterdam Avenue on the west side of the city. And yeah, it seems to have started with like some dock workers, because actually kind of similar to pinching someone not wearing green on St. Patrick's Day, it had become a custom when it hit, like, it goes from Straw Hat Day to Felt Hat Day, which is kind of interesting. You're supposed to go to your fedora or whatever else in mid-September. And it was actually a really common practice among people in the financial district to take their straw hats off and smash them on this day. Also because you were only supposed to wear them for one season. They were poorly made and they'd start to unravel and stuff. So it was like very symbolic. Oh, it's all fun. You take your hat off and you smash it. And it seems to have started that way. And then some of these young kids were harassing people, and those people fought back, and it just gets out of hand. But it was a little hard for Hatting to manage this group, because so many of them were underage, my favorite part is that several of the arrested hoodlums were taken to a police precinct on 104th Street, and the newspaper reports very clearly that they were spanked publicly by their parents. It was like, if I ever get spanked and it makes the newspaper, like, just write my obituary alongside it, because that's the most important thing I could possibly imagine. But it's such an odd story, and it does encapsulate what we were alluding to earlier. This, like, how much of this is really, like, were there really 1,000 kids knocking hats off of people on the Upper West Side, or is this the New York Tribune trying to sell papers in the 20s? Like, so it's a little hard to ascertain the exact story, but it's just such an odd little slice of life in that early Roaring 20s era.
Yeah.
That's our homework.
Wouldn't be the 20s without getting spanked, right? Sorry,
All right.
I 905 for why.
905.
We tried. We really tried.
You did your best, Tosh. Good job.
Full hour. I'm proud of you.
Proud of you, Tosh.
To be honest, I thought I muted myself before I said that. I shut my camera off.
That's why I've kept myself on mute.
So there's the running joke.
Sorry.
So the inappropriateness, which everybody was warned ahead of time to be on your best behavior. I figured they'd make it half an hour, so we did good. We did good.
We exceeded expectations.
Yes.
Was it I just because we said the word orgy? Is that what did it?
That started it. But
Yeah.
I'm one of those people too where I'm very quiet until I'm like in my element with my people, and then all of the quietness just has to come out. And I try.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, that was that was like that, and I really liked exploring that story for this, because I was like, what? Because it's not something you could write a whole podcast about, but it's like.
Do you have that quote, Caitlin, from the column that we found?
Oh, yeah, give me just a second. I have a quote from a journalist at the time where I was like, Michael, I like this quote. From a woman being like, what is up with these?
Yeah, and this one was from the Brooklyn Eagle, I think, regional
It's
paper of the time.
By Helen Rowland. It said, the average man's devotion to his hat, in all caps, is one of life's greatest mysteries. It seems to be something sacred in his life, which he cherishes and protects as passionately as he does his dignity, his honor, and his grandmother's memory. He will fight for it, quarrel over it, and risk his life under a motor truck or trolley car to salvage its remains in a wind. When a boy wants to start a fight, all he does is snatch another boy's hat, and the battle is on.
Yep.
That's
Absolute.
still true. Still true.
Yeah. Hi, Justin.
So there you go.
There
Be
you go.
careful of snatching hats off of anybody, or you might start an 8-day riot in.
What is it? It's like,
Yes.
beware, like 15th of September or whatever.
Yes, remember the 15th of September, the straw hat something and plot. We'll workshop this.
Yeah.
Give me a night and I'll
You
come
can-
up
you
with
can
a
change-
plan.
This is how we
Change
write.
Guy Fawkes. Yeah, definitely. All right, well, I guess I'll go and then we can go the same way. So I know that some people here, I've talked about it before, but some people here have heard of it, but I don't know if you guys have. I'm hoping Michael has. Has anybody heard about the Patriots War?
I have.
The Patriots War was a border conflict fought between American volunteers known as the Patriots and the British forces along the Michigan and Upper Canadian border between 1835 and 1838. It was disputes over border territory, and the Patriots here in Michigan, New York, and some in Maine thought that, well, we got rid of England. Of course Canada wants to be free too, so we're going to help them. But they didn't want our help. So border between Michigan and Upper Canada was not clearly defined, leading to tension between American settlers and British authorities. In 1837, a rebellion broke out in Upper Canada led by William Lyon Mackenzie, who sought to establish a republic. American sympathizers known as the Patriots saw an opportunity to support the rebellion and potentially annex Upper Canada. And also economic interests, of course, because, it's all about money for trade and shipping routes. So the invasion up in Upper Canada in December 1837, a group of patriots led by Dr. Charles Ducombe invaded Upper Canada, hoping to spark a wider rebellion. However, the invasion was poorly planned and executed, and the patriots were quickly defeated.
Sorry.
It's okay. So the Battle of the Windmill. So I actually found out about this because I cleaned 2 members that were there at the Battle of the Windmill. In November,
Bernadette.
Good night, Bernadette.
In November 1838, a group of patriots led by William Lyon Mackenzie's nephew, James Fitzgibbon, attempted to capture the town of Prescott, Upper Canada. However, they were defeated by the British forces at the Battle of the Windmill. And at the end, what happened is that, long story short, the Canadians came down, and the American force, the troops, the actual States troops, smushed these patriots in this little area and dispatched most of them, and the ones that they didn't dispatch got sent to Australia.
Oh, damn.
And some of them made it back, many didn't. But again, I cleaned a couple, so that was very big thing up here in northern New York, being so close to the Canadian border. But I had no idea until I cleaned their headstone that there was anything called a Patriots War.
I have a question. If
Yes.
you know, I might have heard of this. Does Daniel Webster feature into this story? I think he was.
That I don't know.
Okay. I think he might, but this is
Potentially.
me. Yeah, this is just me being like, oh man, have I heard of this bit of history or maybe not? I'm not sure.
Probably Michael. Michael is like a human search engine.
It's an interesting one though.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting, and I know that Allie, you have a soft spot for like the Patriots, Revolutionary War, all that kind of stuff. I pass the Dorset Cemetery most days, and I'm like, I see those that you clean.
Did you wing?
I don't know if Cheryl's in here, but Daniel Webster is one of her great-grandfathers.
Oh, cool.
Whoa.
If it's the same one, let me just pull it up real quick, but hold on.
I see your brain reeling, Josh.
There's a couple of us that are members of the
me.
DAR. So.
I've been watching Outlander. Those are Outlander names you just gave.
Yes,
Allie.
they were.
Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Did you see me pop up? I was like,
Fitzgibbons?
wait a minute.
Fitzgibbons, wait. Heard of.
Okay,
I may have
so
binge watched that entire series.
Captain John Webster is one of her great-grandfathers, and I'm pretty sure Daniel was one of his kids.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. I just went through all of the research that Cheryl's done in, like, the area of the 1700s and found a total of 24 Patriots so far in her tree.
Yeah. She beats me. I'm at 14 or so.
I'm a registrar for the DAR, so she had me look at it so that she could see what information she needs, and I'm like, pick a last name. Like, I just went through and wrote all of them down. All of these pages are filled with her Patriots right now.
My grandfather kept all of his application documents to Sons of the American Revolution, and then I got an award from a DAR chapter, I think in California, for like past preservation and that kind of thing. So like that kind of history is so interesting to me, and so like, my son actually, who I said is like my little history boy, he has recently gotten really into the Revolutionary War. So being able to talk to him about it. He's only 6. So trying to explain what the Boston Tea Party was to a 6-year-old is difficult. But
no taxation without representation.
They just threw tea in the harbor. It's okay.
It's all fine. Well, so his sister loves Hamilton. And so he loves the King George songs. from Hamilton. So I was like, you know how he
they're
said
so
like
good.
hurled tea in the sea? Like that's what he's talking about. It's hard to explain. Very complicated.
You're muted.
I have a Hamilton obsession too.
You should show him the actual cases of tea because they're very actually. There's one left, and it's very small.
Oh,
Oh.
how funny. That's so cool.
Yeah, but there was like 300 something of
Right.
them.
They checked a lot, but it's only like you can carry it very easily.
Yeah.
My son is very literal, so it's because he's 6. So it's very hard to like when he discovered that World War I was real, like he lost it. Like he cried about it. So it's very you have to like. I know he's you know but it's like it's funny, right? Because you can see like that's this group. You know, he'd be in this group of feeling it and being interested in it and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my local area, about 2 miles from where I grew up, there is the grave of a man who took place in the took part in the Boston Tea Party.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he was one of the ones who dressed up in disguise.
Oh yeah.
And threw the tea into the harbor. You know.
It's so interesting. It's so like
That's cool,
So-
Mac. I didn't know that.
Parker got kicked from the live, and he sent a picture of it. It says, "Live unavailable. This live contains themes that you may find uncomfortable."
Well, because he's young.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to say, Allie just got an award from DAR for preservation work as well. That was signed by the President General, who is like the highest person in the DAR.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a national award.
wow, that's so amazing.
Why are some of us just hearing about this now?
I know. I'm like, we haven't heard about it.
She sent it in the Discord.
Did you send us a
didn't you?
picture?
I don't pay attention to this.
You guys gotta send. Can you send me the Discord? I don't have Discord, but I will figure out Discord.
It's once you get it, it's fairly intuitive. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And you can't see it because I got the background on.
I think. Let's see if I want.
It's actually on our website as well. So if you go to our website, at the very top is the links to all of our stuff for Grave Geeks as well.
Oh, cool. I will.
Yep.
I'll check that out. Thank you.
Robot guy with
Hi,
eyes.
Eddie. My little brother says hi. He's in here.
I was wondering who that was.
Hi.
Well, he changes his username on there all the time. So I'm like, is this Eddie? Hi, buddy. You better be being
Discord's
good,
great.
mister, or I'll start embarrassing you again.
How old is he? Is he 37?
So for reference, I am the oldest. I'm 30. My youngest sibling just turned 10 yesterday.
Oh,
That's
a big.
Or I'm 31 now. I'm not 30.
Yes.
Jeez, no,
So,
Amanda, you
my-
don't have to pay for it.
We didn't correct you.
My youngest sibling is only 4.5 months older than my son.
Oh wow.
They are in the same class together, and the teacher laughs because Jasper, picking on Emery, will call him Uncle Emery in school. He doesn't call him Uncle Emery anywhere else. It's just when Emery's pissing him off in school.
That's your job as a nephew.
Yeah.
31, Josie. 31.
I took Jasper and Emery out to breakfast the other day, and the lady at the restaurant thought that they were both my kids, and I'm like, no, actually, this is Dad's youngest. She's like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize he had one that young.
Like my husband's family is very Brady Bunch, and his oldest is his stepsister. Like always got mistaken for his youngest half sister's mom, because like years wise that would work, but it used to drive her crazy. But they're super close now. So
Well, that's why I tell people, like, don't ever think the age gaps mean anything. Like, when I think I was 10 when my parents split up, and my dad went and had 3 other kids with 2 different women. And 15 years later, my parents got back together. So, 100 years from now, when somebody's looking at this genealogy, if they don't realize that they got divorced, they're going to think my dad had kids with somebody else while they were married.
But see, like my best friend,
yeah,
she's my bestie, and I'm closer to her mother's age than I am her. Her mom's only like 7 years older than me.
Yeah, actually, when we were at Dorset, the one that's like called over to you and asked if you wanted any sandwiches, that was my mom.
Oh.
You want a sandwich, Mom? I love that. Yeah, no, my weird story of that, of like where you did the double take on the marriage record, and it became clear when I met with my grandmother, and she was like, oh yeah, like I think it was her great grandparents were first cousins, and I was looking at the record and I was like, wait, why do they, like, the last name was the same, and I was like, well, why did they put her married name on the record? Why didn't they put her maiden name? I was like, nope.
Well, this one, I'm working on an application for somebody right now, and she sent me her first marriage record. On this, it reads that she got married to Kenneth Arthur Bonner, who was born in 1911. Diana Clemens was born in 1958. They got married in 1979.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He is like 48 years older than she is, and he was
Love knows no age.
70 something. Well, no, he died 3 years later. And then immediately she married somebody else. And this is like more modern. Like, I mean, it was 1979 when they got married. That's what Allie and I were thinking, because he had 3 children and an ex-wife. His ex-wife was not dead yet. We're thinking she was taking care of him until he died so that she would get the money and it wouldn't go to his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Oh,
but I mean, you're going to see that. Like my I can't remember if it was his 2 greats or 1, but it was my grandmother's grandfather, so great. He came to, America from Italy. This is my dad's adoptive side. And he had 3 girls and a boy, and all 3 girls got married, and he kept trying to get citizenship, and the U.S. is like, nope. You do too many things for the Teamsters and the families. So no, we're not going to give you citizenship. So at like 64, 63, he's like, fine, swear some Italian, and I'm going back to Italy. And then he married one of the help who was 16, 17, and had 3 more children. So my cousin Valentina is actually the same generation as my father, and she just turned 30, and my dad is 75.
It's so, and I assume, like, all of you with cleaning graves and all that stuff, when you share these stories of like, and then he, married a woman like 20 years younger, and there are people that are like, what? Like, that's crazy. And it's like, oh man, that's kind of,
it's happened all the way through time.
Yep.
All the way.
Yep. Yeah, I was just a little shocked with this one because she didn't even tell me she was married beforehand. She gave me her her last marriage license, and it had her married name on it. I was like, I need something that shows why your name transitioned. So she reluctantly sent me the other marriage license. And I'm like, oh, that's why there's like almost 50 years between y'all. That's why. And she got divorced from the second one too, but
isn't it great? Like, families are, like, other thing that people comment on that I think is so interesting that you see so much is the necronym, where you have somebody that was named, whatever, Robert James, and then that child died, and then they had another Robert James, and they kept the name going, and people are like, what? And that's you see it everywhere, right? Like, that's so common. And I, even with my family, my family, like I said, on that side is very Irish Catholic, and we don't talk about anything difficult or hard or sad at all. And I told my dad, like, so the year that my great grandfather John was born, his parents lost 3 children to diphtheria. And one was named John, one was Daniel, one was Susan. That year, they had my great-grandfather, who was John. Then they had another kid named Daniel. And I was like, did you know that there's like this, like whatever? He's like, no one ever said that. And I was like, interesting. We just drank gin and tonics and didn't talk about it, right?
Well, it was fun.
Did anybody else have a history thing that they looked up that they wanted to share? All right, what you got, B?
So this one is kind of really cool. So I've been in the middle of transcribing my second great-grandfather's Great Depression diary. And this happened in August of 1935. So there was a plane crash that happened in what he called Alaska, but it was Alaska. And so it was just two people that were trying to fly to the territory of Alaska because it wasn't even part of the United States yet. And their name was Will Rogers and give me 1 second. Was Will Rogers and Willie Post. And this one, it was the submarine of an airplane, if you know what that means, like from the Titanic exploding. It was a makeshift airplane, and it didn't get far. And there was just a big crash, and my second great grandfather heard on it on the radio and wrote about it on his diary, which is pretty cool.
Oh man, that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. We do have an episode on the Titanic. Not to bring us back.
No,
I love the Titanic.
Part of the reason why you guys are here.
I was going to ask, is that, you said Will Rogers was the name?
Yeah.
Is that like the humorist?
The Will Rogers, I believe.
Why is that name familiar?
That it was the actual Will Rogers?
It's like, yeah, he was like in films and news. He had a newspaper column, I think, if that's the same one.
I believe so. Give me 1 second to... Yes, it was. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's super interesting.
Yep.
He was a big celebrity in the early 20th century.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's like a little snippet of it off of Oklahoma Senate.gov. Will Rogers and Willie Post bid farewell to a small crowd gathered at Fairbanks, Alaska on August 15th, 1935. They would perish in an airplane crash later that day. Post modified a hybrid Lockheed Orion Explorer specifically for the trip to Russia by adding pontoons for water landing. The pair departed Seattle for Juneau on August 7th, 1935, 2 days after the test flight of the modified plane. On August 9th, they left for Aklavik. I don't know how to pronounce that. Aklavik. Where sightseeing and weather kept them until August 12th. They then journeyed on to Fairbanks. On August 15th, Post and Rogers departed Fairbanks for Point Barrow. Then it goes to Eskimo seal hunters saw the red Lockheed fly low over their valley and land in a nearby lagoon. Once on the ground, Post asked the direction to Point Barrow, and one of the hunters pointed north across the featureless tundra. Post tinkered with the engine for a few minutes, and Rogers chatted with the Eskimos. Then they started the engine, taxied across the river, and took off in a steep climbing turn. About 50 feet up, the engine seemed to stop cold. The plane flattered, dragging a wing in the water, and crashed into its banks. So that was my little tidbit.
Awesome.
Nice work, B.
Thank you.
Round of
Yay! Yeah, round of applause. I do that too, and everybody thinks I'm a dork. I'm like, I don't care. It's funny.
Well, we are all dorks in this group. We're all good.
Geeks. We're all geeks.
We always did that in theater class.
I did it at summer camp when I was a counselor.
I mean, that's dumb.
I could totally see you being a camp counselor.
I was just thinking the same thing.
That
I'm
is-
like,
That's
you
not
totally
a
have
negative.
that vibe.
You are just, it's awesome.
Thank you. My camp name was Guppy,
Guppy.
and I sang the Princess Pat and all the camp songs. That's Pat.
Anybody else have a story or history
Chaos
story?
does.
Chaos does. Chaos.
I do. This is a local history. So, during World War II, there were 5 bombings and attacks on continental U.S. soil. But then there was a 6th bombing that not a lot of people know about. So I'm going to tell you guys about the 1944 bombing of Miles City, Montana. So, on March 22nd, 1944, the residents of Miles City woke up to find their entire city basically flooded with ice, slush, and water. With the amount of heavy snowfall, melt-off, runoff, Miles City sitting at the mouth of the Yellowstone River and the Tongue River, there was an ice jam and it had backed up into the city. So quickly they'd made a plan and they loaded some small planes up with dynamite and dropped dynamite from planes to try and break up the ice jam. It did not work. So, of course, what do? They call the governor, and the governor calls the Air Force in South Dakota to send bigger bombs. So, the plan was pretty quickly figured out. They loaded up a B-17 with 6 250-pound bombs to take from South Dakota to Miles City, Montana. The plan was to take it to the airport, and they would then be offloaded and put onto dive bombers and then dropped from about 10,000 feet, which the 10,000 feet thing to me was a little off because I'm like, that seems like a way to bomb the city instead. Luckily, there was a blizzard, so that couldn't happen. So the B-17 actually had to make the run itself. So it made test runs going about 100 feet above the river. And it did 2 dummy runs before the 3rd run when it dropped the first test bomb to make sure it landed. And it did. It did not break up the jam. So they made 2 more runs, unleashing the other 5 bombs during those 2 runs. And with the townspeople watching, because there are really cool, there's like cliffs and stuff, because Miles City sits in a valley. So they were all up on a cliff, like a mile away from the river, watching what happened, and there was plumes of mud, ice, and water just shooting up everywhere. But within hours, the river had dropped 10 feet. So it worked.
Gee, I wonder why.
I would like to note that Montana still uses that particular way to break up ice jams in the rivers, especially the Yellowstone.
Because technology hasn't happened yet.
No.
I feel like whenever anyone talks about like the government doing any like conspiracy, and you're like, this is what they do. Like, you give them carte blanche. This is what they do. Like,
I love that the solution was to get bigger smoke.
You know what? It's ice. We're gonna blow it up.
I think you just want 2 truths and a lie.
I would like to note, though, that the Yellowstone, even to this day, is one of the longest uncontrolled rivers in the United States. So there's no dams, no control. It's not controlled in any way, shape, or form. It just runs wild. Straight from the mountain.
I mean, that's the thing, too. Isn't it, this is one thing I think about whenever I'm cleaning graves, where you think about, like, oh, like, nature's always going to win. Nature's wins over all of us. Like, we're delaying it a little bit, but, like, this lichens is going to last a lot longer than me.
Oh, yeah. We now have a dirt dike that runs along the Tongue and the Yellowstone River to hold back the river. But it's not tall enough. We've been told by the Army Corps of Engineers that it needs to be fixed and it needs to be taller, and we probably shouldn't be driving on it.
Nah.
Not if they're dropping bombs.
We're like, where are we going to go fishing?
Good Lord. Y'all need a bunch of rednecks with some tannerite or something to break up your river.
Like, hang on, I got to cross the bridge. Let me check.
One of the funniest things in the articles, it mentions that in one of the articles I'd read about it is it mentions the fact that it's a small sleepy town of only like 700 or 7,774 souls. We're just over 8,000 right now. We're still sleepy.
Well, they used to say the Native Americans always said, the problem with people when they came onto the land of America is the Native Americans lived their life within nature. And then people started coming over the colonies and they changed it to adapt to what they needed it for. They didn't adapt to what was there. And so we're still living with that,
Oh, exactly.
Well, yeah, no, they say that about my husband works for the federal government here, and he was saying that the state archaeologist talks about how, like, the Vermont was too mountainous to settle in, and so the Abenaki tribe used it as like hunting territory, but it wasn't until Europeans came and they were like, we'll just blow it up.
Yeah.
That they could settle the land.
Good night, Parker.
Oh yeah. Well, like I think one of the contributing factors would be in the 1800s, Fort Keogh, which was one of the main military bases in the West at the time. It's where most of the generals and soldiers from Custer's Last Stand came from. But they actually moved the Tongue River, about a half a mile, quarter of a mile, something like that. Personally, I think that might have been a little bit of a contributing factor because that particular area where the river is supposed to be floods.
Good night, Amanda.
You can see even in nature, though, the paths, the changes of the rivers and the different mountain ranges. I mean, yes, are the big mountains going to move? No, but it changes. Water will get through one way or another. Either it's going to wear a path, or it's going to go under, or it's going to go around. But nature will prevail one way or another.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you drop a 250 bomb.
I can drop because I think Josie said they had a really good one too.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna drop.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, Tasha, you want to come back up?
I've got one, but I have to send my picture to somebody. Well, I have a few pictures. I don't know.
You can send them to me if you'd like.
I can share mine while she's sending it. So one of my problems with the event I picked is I don't know if it's popular, and a lot of people know about it because half of my education, I lived in Saudi Arabia and Iran. So I missed a chunk of history, like from moving back and forth. And so I picked the children's blizzard. I don't know have you guys heard of it?
No.
Okay, well, good. So January 12th of 1888, it's known as the children's blizzard because this blizzard came on so fast within hours. And I can't remember. I recently had read a book about it, and the temperature dropped and everything. So teachers saw that this weather was coming in. And they're like, okay, we're going to dismiss all the students, let you guys go home. That way you can get home before the storm comes in. Well, it came so fast that over 200 children died in the Midwest. It was like Montana and the Dakotas and Wyoming. So this storm just came in, and because these kids got caught walking home from school, and some of these kids probably walked miles, to get home, because in 1888, that's when you walked to school, and you didn't have the weather reporters like we have nowadays. But it was crazy because in the book, besides the children, it talked about some children survived and some adults and even some cattle survived. But then when it got warmer and their bodies started to defrost, they died because of a sudden blood clot. And so I just recently read a book, so that's why I was really interested in this and like how many people knew about it.
Isn't it interesting to think about this? One thing I think about with a lot of this stuff where, like, I think there's the idea of like, oh, people before were more resilient or whatever. And you're thinking like these people all like the trauma they experienced or all the sort of generational trauma that they carried with them over decades or, that really we're still that's all within us now,
Right.
of that kind of like pain.
Yeah.
Interesting, that's, I think I know the book you're talking about that talked about that, where it is now, it seems like you said, you've got weather, you've got, we had a couple inches of snow and the kids got a 2-hour delay and it was like not a big deal,
Yeah. But like when the teachers felt bad because, they just let the kids go. Because
why wouldn't you,
you didn't know that the weather was going to drop that fast and the system was coming in so fast,
They still get it wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's true. Well, and even back then, it's like you dress your kids, you dress probably how they're going to, you're not thinking that a cold front's going to come in and a blizzard, and you might not dress your kid in that many layers.
Might not have that many layers.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I believe I read that book, but it's been a long time. And the weird thing with that part in history is the area that it affected is an area that was just starting to set up because of the time frame. The entire country was just setting up their schools in the different states. So you had all these different schoolhouses all over the regions, not like towns like we have now. So people were bringing their horses or walking to school miles to school. Like, so schools were within a 5-mile radius of home or more. So, these kids are taking a hike. It was like 50 degrees when the day started. When most of these kids left home. Yeah. And as they're walking to school, the temperature was dropping and the blizzard moved in while they're at school. While these kids are like 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever the day was back then at school, this blizzard's dumping inches of snow on the ground. The temperature dropped from 50 to like 10 in an hour. So think about sending a kid to school dressed for 50 degrees.
Right. Well, and the buses, well, I mean, I guess they weren't really buses, but they were wagon train buses. They'd take the wagon and pick up all the kids at the school, and I had read one story where they forgot a student because he ran back into the classroom to get something.
Yeah.
And I mean, he actually made it. His brother found his frozen body and they were able to save him. I think he had a leg or something amputated. But it was just crazy.
But even like now, living in a cold place, because, Josie, I hear what you're saying, where like in at least in New England, I know that like the towns, there were these like very isolated, like here's a school, here's a school, here's a school. And we're still sort of dealing with that. They still don't want to consolidate these school districts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even now, like my kids, this is 2025, and I've left my kids where it's warm this morning, and knowing that like by the end of the day it's going to get freezing, so I need to make sure that they've got like dry. But I can buy those mittens on Amazon. I can buy, I can get that to my house. I have all that ready. It's not an issue. But to think of like, no, my kids got to walk. Yeah, okay, they got to walk. It's great.
And most of the kids that, like the way the book writes it, they kind of, I hate to use the term, but they kind of whitewashed the history because they talk about boys and girls. Well, girls at that time were not allowed to go to all schools in all states. So most of the kids that died were boys. So like in the areas where the population was really impacted, they lost a lot of their 10 to 14-year-old boys because they froze on the way home.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Tasha, do you have gurus, or B, do you have gurus? Okay.
B does. I was going to say I don't.
I'll make it big so we can see the picture.
Ooh. So mine is, I live in Oakland City, Indiana. It's a really small town, but there's also a smaller town, like not even 2 minutes down the road. It's called Francisco, Indiana. And in 1926, there was a mine explosion, underground mine explosion. And it was pretty big around here. There is a picture of the memorial. I forgot to send to B, but you can find it on Google if you just like Google it if you're curious.
Oh,
But
hello,
what
Julie.
happened
Do you want to be on the camera?
was that morning, 71 men total were in the mine, and all of these men had literally just been lowered down. And they believe they were never able to prove exactly. My notes are kind of everywhere. Sorry. They were never able to really determine if it was gas pockets for sure, but they're pretty sure it was because there was the fire boss on duty that had mentioned to some survivors that there were gas pockets in the mine, but he wasn't going to report it because he thought he could clear it out himself. And then not too long after that, the explosion happened.
He cleared it with gas.
Yes, exactly.
Violently.
And so I've seen conflicting articles about the number of men that were killed, but the highest number I've seen was 38. A lot of them say 37.
Yeah, but back then, only the people who were actually on the books would have been recorded as lost. Any people who were what's known as under the table workers or not
Right.
listed workers, they would have just been buried and never recorded.
I never knew that.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's one of the ways that you get around.
1926?
Yes, absolutely. That's the period of time when they were bringing over. They would go to Italy, and they would sign on all these people to come to wherever in the U.S. as indentured servants, and they would target people who did not know how to speak English, and bring them over, and they would list them different ways to not have them as legal citizens. And then if they died, they died. There was no harm, no foul to the business owner because they were basically glorified slaves at that time. It's all that part of history that got a little bit of whitewashing because it
That
was too
phrase,
dark.
right, of like every regulation is written in blood. Something
Yes, yes.
you know.
Well, all the regulations were put into effect because of like the fire that happened at that one textile factory where the women were locked in on the upper floor.
Triangle shirtwaist, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Most of the fights in the 20s from the women came from like the New York and New Jersey textile industry, and a lot of it was the Singer Manufacturing Company for sewing machines. They had a big hand in a lot of that, which is messed up.
Was there
but true.
more? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. So the next one kind of tells more about how they were still rescuing men. It was an operation that was spread out over a couple days. But the next morning, the next afternoon, I believe, actually, there was a second blast. And it caused them to have to seal the mine up and leave the rest of any possible, which they only I believe was like 5 at the time. According to other people that were still alive that they rescued, they believe these men were already deceased, but nobody really knows for sure. So they were forced to leave those men in the mine, and the plan was to keep it sealed for I think 30 to 90 days, but they only kept it sealed for about 60. And then they were able to retrieve, I think, 4 of the men, and then there's one still they don't know. There's just a couple more things about this sad story. I think the rest of the stuff I sent B are just I think it's just a picture. Is that it? It's kind of
We
sad.
found workarounds for people that can't use their cameras.
Yeah. There is just a couple things. I guess the blast terrified so many people surrounding the area. There's a neighboring town called Petersburg about 10 to 15 miles away. And a lot of miners from the Francisco mine lived in Petersburg. And the only thing that saved them that day was the distance they had to travel to get to work, because they normally did get underground after the other men more locally. And that was the only thing that saved them, was the fact that they lived farther away. And it spooked everybody in Pike County, I live right on the border of Gibson and Pike. 5 minutes away is Pike County. And it spooked everybody around so much that none of the men in any of the surrounding mines would go to work for the next couple of days. They were all just so, understandably.
Yeah.
And then another thing, it's just this is more of a positive part of this sad story. I do have a newspaper clipping. I just didn't send it to B, but there was a woman named Lucia Andrews, and her father was the vice president of that company, the Francisco Coal Company. She was a graduate nursing student, and she happened to be home and heard about the explosion. And she was, Lawrenceville, Illinois is about 30 minutes away maybe, but back then, it probably took a lot longer to get there. She traveled right away as soon as she heard, and she tried 3 different times, they reported in all these newspaper articles I found, to try to go underground. They wouldn't let her. She was a woman, but she tried so hard to get under there. And she was quoted as saying that, I've been down there before. I grew up here. And I don't know if I quoted it or not. I might have it a little wrong, but it had something to do with no amount of fear will keep me from the suffering, or something like that. And I thought that was really cool, that lady, and she ended up getting a cut on her hand while she was out there trying to find her way into this mine, got an infection, and almost lost her life. Happily, she ended up being in her 90s when she passed, but she did almost die at that age. She was very, very young, obviously. She was still a nursing student. And there was articles about how the surviving miners would line up outside the hospital with flowers. They were just so, they just loved her so much for trying to help them all. So I thought that was a cool part of it too. And that's all I got.
Thanks. I think we're going to have to, Josie, I'm sorry. I think we're going to have to hold yours for the next time, because it's getting close to the end. But so for next week's is the random. So we're going to do the first Thursday of the month is the random find a grave one. And then the next one we'll do another story. So please hold it, Josie. Sorry.
Well, and too, if we go through all of our random find a grave information, we can probably do some.
Put it at the
absolutely. Yeah.
But I wanted to give them another chance to talk about anything else about the podcast that's coming up, like the start dates, and we do this every Thursday, and you guys are always welcome to pop in and tell us what's coming up, or just to come join and jibber jabber.
First of all, thank you so much for having us and for listening to me, especially ramble as I do. But it was so lovely to talk to all of you. Our podcast is going live this Sunday, 2/2/25, and you can get more information at mortalmysteries.com. It is a labor of love we've been working on for 2 years, a long time, that is, means a lot to us, and that, I plan on sharing grave cleaning, all of that, on TikTok or whatever platform I can. But this is something that's, been a labor of love over the last little while. So I'm really excited, and I think that it's something that will connect with a lot of you. And I will pass it over to Michael.
Yeah, and I'm honored to be ushered into the Grave Talk space. I'm such a big fan of Caitlin's work, and meeting everybody who's similarly interested and passionate about the past, passionate about human stories and things like that. That's what we're about. And frankly, we're the first show that's going to be coming out on this platform, but that's really their mission as well, is bringing up storytellers and allowing creators and independent people to tell their stories, whatever underserved and unique perspectives they might have. So we're really honored to be given the opportunity to do this show and excited to share it with people. So I don't think that this is the last time I'll be here because this was such a nice time. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, thank you.
We try and have fun. I mean, we're all inclusive. So if it has to do with history, it has to do with people, and it has to do with conservation, it kind of encompasses everything.
Yep.
We are birds of a feather.
But we're not always just professional, right?
No, that's true.
We have done
kind
so
of
well.
thing in the winter.
Well, thank you guys again so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Any final
Being
questions
such an inspiration.
for people?
I have one other thing. So
Okay,
with
Tasha.
you guys doing like the mysteries, have you ever heard of the Egan murders?
Yes, that sounds very familiar.
So, I just thought about this with the whole, like, you know, historical thing that most people have not heard of. This isn't super historical, but it happened on New Year's Eve in 1964. The reason I ask is with you guys doing the mysteries and stuff, this has never been solved.
This was the one on I-81, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this was the exit that it happened at on 81 is basically right in between mine and Allison's house.
Oh wow.
Get out of here.
And it was 3 people. It was 2 brothers and the wife or girlfriend and a dog. All 3 of the people were found kiboshed. The dog was living. The dog was still alive.
The dog.
So that's okay. But there was somebody that was arrested for it who they ended up finding was innocent. To this day, they don't know who it was that kiboshed them. There's been stories and stuff that they were like part of a DRUG chain. So this says right here, police found the 3 Egans who are buried in North Watertown Cemetery, which is where Allie did her workshop. The Egan family was found kiboshed at a rest stop on Interstate 81, 2 miles north of Watertown. William J. and his wife had pulled in to clean their car's windshield when Jay noticed Barbara Egan's body on the ground near the car. Police found 3 Egans shot twice in the head, gangland fashion, in the vernacular of the day. Peter was 27, Barbara was 24, and they both lived in Sackett's Harbor. Peter's brother, Gerald Francis, was 19 and lived in Watertown. The 2 brothers were found slumped over the front seat of their 1955 Mercury station wagon, and Barbara was found on the gravel on the right side of the car, face down, not in the view of the cars. One of her boots was on the ground in front of the vehicle, and she was still in curlers. She had curlers in her hair. The 2 brothers were kiboshed with a .25 caliber pistol, while Miss Egan was shot with a .38. The shells from the .25 were found on the ground. When the police got there, the family Pekingese dog was found unharmed in the vehicle, sitting on the front seat and partially on one of the kiboshed men's shoulders. All 3 Egans had a number of moderately minor police records, including local burglaries. I can't ever pronounce that word for some reason.
Burglary.
Police, yeah, it rolls my tongue weird. I don't know. Police said that the brothers made frequent trips to Buffalo because of the gangland-style killing. The FBI was brought in. The FBI suspected Peter of being involved in the sale of a stolen car out of Florida and found later in the town of Brownville. 3 arrests were made in March of 1968, but only one person, Joseph Leone, came to trial. He was acquitted after trial in 1970. The trial did bring famed defense attorney F. Lee Bailey to Watertown as a witness for the people in support of lie detectors as evidence.
Oh, well, I mean, we definitely are always open to more mysteries for sure.
And
But,
it's going
that
to
one-
take us 3 years to be going through that cemetery to find their headstones because they have.
Oh, I know where they are.
Small. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I took pictures of them. I'm the one that put them on Find a Grave.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Never mind.
It's 10 o'clock.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
we
they're
got you.
tiny.
Yeah.
I have
I was
people at my
doing
water
that
town
section.
in Black River, so we'll come hang out.
Oh. That's
Black River.
Allie.
Right.
Thanks
Well,
for
thanks,
the
Allie.
just in case. And we are always in the market for mysteries, so send them our way.
Yeah, that one's just kind of cool because it's local and it's something like you don't have to worry about anybody getting offended by it with it being semi-recent because there's been movies made about it and played in our local theater.
Oh, yeah.
This is one on the Mendez brothers. That was a messed up grave too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. And you guys are always welcome every Thursday.
Thank you so much. Great meeting everybody. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you guys.
We can't wait for your podcast.
Next week, and I can't wait. Sunday for them, and then next Thursday for us. So you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye. Have a great week.